Rubio, I couldn't agree more with what my colleague from Florida has said, that we need to create a positive climate to create jobs. But one thing we do know is that that doesn't happen by more spending in Washington. The recent report that came out about the president's stimulus package has shown that it costs $278,000 per job created by that stimulus package, and yet we had to borrow so much money, nearly $1 trillion, to create a limited number of jobs that cost us $278,000 a job. I do come from a small business family, and my husband started a landscaping and snow plowing business. I work with him to start that business. And New Hampshire is a small business state. As I campaigned up and down our state, I talked to so many small business owners, and I never had a small business owner tell me that they were being taxed too little. Please tax me more. What I did hear was too many burdensome regulations from Washington were coming down and making it difficult for our small businesses to thrive and grow. And frankly, some of the taxes coming down from Washington making it difficult. In the health care bill, there was a tax on medical device companies. New Hampshire has nearly 50 of those companies. And what I heard from those companies, and I've heard that even more recently, the tax in that health care bill on medical device companies is going to take away significant amounts of their research and development budget to create new products that will improve the quality of our health care and save lives. So the actions we're taking in Washington, we need to create a positive climate for our small businesses, not thinking that we create the jobs here in Washington. We know that it's the small businesses and the hardworking entrepreneurs and those that have a great idea in this country in the private sector that create those jobs. And they don't need more taxes and burdens from Washington. What we need to do is, frankly, get out of their way and allow them to thrive and grow and to create jobs for all of our children going forward. Senator Rubio, I don't know if you heard from businesses in Florida about the regulatory concerns and burdens from Washington hurting economic growth in the private sector.
Well, the truth is that throughout the campaign and even now, that's what I hear all the time from people, is that these regulations are making it harder, not easy, for them to create jobs. That, combined with the uncertainty of the tax code. They don't know what the taxes are going to be next year, but they read the newspaper, they listen to the news, and every time they hear talk about this tax increase stuff, it scares job creators. They make the decision, well, wait, you know what, maybe this is not the year to hire people, because we still don't know how much it's going to cost to hire people. The other great phrase here, both Senator Ayotte and I have only been here a few months, so I think we're still learning the language of Washington. I hope it never becomes part of my permanent vocabulary, but one of the things that I have been hearing recently is this notion of everything should be on the table, which is funny because everything is not on the table, according to the President and others. For example, there's no serious discussion of a spending cap. I'd love to have a vote right. Why don't we have a vote on the balanced budget amendment? Why is that not on the table? Why is a balanced budget amendment not on the table? Why aren't we voting on that tomorrow? Because a balanced budget amendment basically says you can't spend money you don't have, which makes all the sense in the world to the rest of the people that live in the real world, but apparently that doesn't apply here, and the result is these problems that we face. But I actually think some things should be off the table. Let me tell you what should be off the table. Bad ideas. If something is a bad idea, it shouldn't be on the table. And I think it's a bad idea to pass things that are going to make it harder to hire people. How much higher do they want unemployment to be? So here's I think what we have to ask ourselves. These tax increases that, as Senator Ayotte rightfully pointed out, along with the regulations, kill job creation in America. These tax increases don't do anything about the debt. They don't raise enough money to do anything significant about the debt. They don't create jobs. In fact, they kill them. So how could tax increases that they're outlining be a part of a solution? Why is it being offered? Because ultimately, these are smart people. They know the math. And I think the answer lies in the politics of all this. The politics of all this is pretty clear. This appears to be an effort to save face. The reality is that everyone here knows there's going to have to be some spending reduction at some level, because we have a spending problem. The reason why we're in the mess that we're in today with our debt is not because Americans don't pay enough in taxes. It's because we spend more money than we have at an alarming rate. Not a little bit more than we have, a lot more than we have. So there's going to have to be some spending reductions, and it appears to me that the President and others in his party are positioning and are looking for some pound of flesh in return for these cuts so they can go back to their political base and say, look what we got. We got something out of this. We went after the people that made all this money. We went after the greedy billionaires and millionaires. We went after the oil companies, even though it has nothing to do with the debt. That's the only explanation for why this is even on the table. I think all bad ideas should be off the table. I think anything that kills jobs should be off the table. I think anything that hurts the ability of job creators to grow their business should be off the table. I think anything that helps increase the unemployment rate should be off the table. I think that's what should be off the table. I think anything that hurts our ability to grow our economy should be off the table. And I hope what should be on the table are things that force this government once and for all to put itself back on the path of sanity. Sanity basically means that we stop having a government that spends money it does not have. And I'll turn it over to Senator Ayotte to close, but I want to thank you for the opportunity to do this because I thought it was important to bring these points to the floor here today.
I want to thank Senator Rubio for his leadership on this issue and for the important issues that he has raised here today, because he's absolutely right that the class warfare is unproductive. The proposals that the president has made are not serious in terms of how much revenue they would even address, not even 10 days of our debt. And unfortunately, right now, the leader of the Senate, what he has brought forward is a resolution, a non-binding sense of the Senate that does nothing to address the spending in Washington. And we are spending over 24% of our GDP or our economy right now. We've historically spent about 20% of our GDP. So our spending is way out of line for where we have spent over the 40-year historical level of our spending. And common sense, why not a balanced budget amendment? Why aren't we addressing that this week in the Senate instead of a non-binding resolution that, again, will have no effect, has no effect, won't reduce our deficit, won't help create any jobs, will not help our economy thrive? We should be addressing real legislation. A balanced budget amendment, I couldn't agree with my colleague from Florida more about living within our means. Families sit around their kitchen table, they make the tough decisions, they see the revenue coming in and the expenditures out, and Washington should do the same. Spending caps to ensure that we get ourselves, put those handcuffs on Congress to make sure that we're not spending this drastic 24% of our GDP right now and really bringing ourselves on a more responsible spending path going forward. And a budget resolution. It's been nearly 2 years since the Senate has passed a budget. No business would run without a budget. Families make budgets, but here in the United States Senate, what we should be bringing to the floor is a real budget resolution that the parties can debate and put ourselves on a responsible fiscal path going forward, rather than voting on a sense of the Senate that will, again, not have any impact in the full force of law. With this deadline coming up for August 2nd, it is time for real legislative proposals and solutions. We put some of the ideas out there: balanced budget, cap amendment, a real budget resolution, and I hope that my colleagues from the other side of the aisle will come forward so we can work together to address this fiscal crisis here and now, so that my children, Senator Rubio's children, will have the same and greater opportunities than all of our children and grandchildren in the greatest country on earth. Thank you, Mr. President.